Welcome back. As you know, I'm Eli the Computer Guy here for the Daily Blob, where I shake my brain nipples every day so that I can earn some of that good YouTube money and be able to afford to provide free to the end user education for you folks in Durham, North Carolina. So my pride and joy is something called SiliconDojo.com. We just had our first in-person class in quite a while at American Underground in Durham, and it went terrifically. We're going to be having our next class coming up in about 2 weeks. So if you're interested in actually learning about technology, actually learning about artificial intelligence, make sure to take a look at SiliconDojo.com. And if you're in the area and can actually attend, RSVP for one of our classes. So I think this is an interesting story today, right? It's curious, right? I go and I do these videos, I talk about things, and it's weird to see like the current trend that is going on in the bot world, right? So I've been doing YouTube videos since 2009, 16, 17 years at this point. And so what's curious is like these bots came out a while ago, and you can see like the trend line of whatever the bot creator is currently interested in, right? Sometimes it's Fauci, sometimes it's Trump, sometimes it's Biden, but holy hell, over the past couple of months, I've been getting hammered with H1B spam and AI being actual Indians. You know, that was like horribly cute the first time I saw it. You know, once you've seen the 1,000th comment saying that, it's both horrible and tedious at that point, right? But anyways, right, there's this huge argument, this huge fight in the United States right now about H1B visas, right? Trump has come out to defend the American worker. He is going to be putting a $100,000 fee on anybody coming in with an H1B visa, and people are now excited, right? We are saving the American economy in a global world. By God, we are going to protect our employees. And you know, one of the things I bring up is it's just like, yeah, I'm just not sure the system works that way. Like, I get where you're coming from. I understand where you're coming from. I understand, you know, I can have some sympathy to some degree. I just don't think the system works that particular way. Again, we talk about this in the globalized world, right? America, United States, is 330 million people out of a population that's somewhere over 8 billion people. At this point. So we're like, you know, we're not 10%, we're like 6%, we're 6% of the world's population. And there's this weird thing in the United States, like there's this idea, again, that we have to be the center of the world. You hear this from the current administration, which is weird. Again, the problem with supremacists is that they know they are right. I do not have to argue because I am right. And again, I scream about supremacists all the time, right? But one of the things you hear about is this whole idea that, you know, America has to remain the supreme economic engine of the world, right? The supreme economy in the world. The United States has to maintain the superior military in the world. And one of the things I just talk about is like, no. That's just not going to happen, right? Do we need a good economy? Do we need an economy that empowers and provides for our citizens? Yes. But at some point, right? You look at China, right? They got 4x. They got 4x our population. 4x our population, slightly smaller economy. Here's the deal. If China brings their entire population up to a standard of living that is one half the quality of the American standard of living, again, let's just go with it, right? They're going to end up having an economy that's almost twice our size. So per capita, their people are still going to be worse off, supposedly, than Americans, but their economy is still going to be twice as large, right? That's the thing. 8.5 billion people around the world. The fact of the matter is this idea that we can have the preeminent X, Y, or Z forever, infinitum, is dumb on the face of it. So anyways, right, so we have this whole stuff going on right now, is keep the immigrants out, right? America is valuable. You can tell how valuable America is because we, by God, spent a lot of resources stealing it from the people that were originally here. But anyways, the idea is it's ours now, and all these foreigners need to go home. Right? And again, dealing with the southern border. I am all for dealing with the southern border. I am 100% behind dealing with the southern border. As I've talked about before, I did not like the concept of the wall. I think the wall is kind of dumb, but I'll take a dumb solution over no solution, right? We've had no solution for a long time. Trump wants to build a wall. Do I think it's a good solution? No, but it's something. It's something. We got options in life. But the weird part is, he's gone so much further. It's not just the wall is the wall thing, but then it's like, we're going to start kicking out foreign exchange students or international students because they say things on social media that we don't like. It's like, what? We so value freedom of speech that if you're an international student in the United States and you use the concept of freedom of speech, we're gonna kick your ass out, right? Going after everybody. The current thing is, again, going after H1B visas. So there's about 85,000 H1B visas that come into the United States. These are supposed to be for high-value employees. Again, surprise, 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 our capitalist system, our CEOs are gaming the system, but basically that's the concept. So the idea being these jobs are being taken away from Americans. Ergo, we have to punish these people. Now to be clear, we are not hyper investing into STEM education in the United States. We are not providing, affordable tracks to education and empowerment in the United States. We're not fixing our zoning system in the United States to be able to build more factories and all that kind of stuff. No, what we're doing under this administration is we're just punishing people. We're just punishing people. We take too many drugs, ergo, we're gonna send a missile at you. Our economy is no longer as efficient as it once was, so we are going to tariff the hell out of you, right? It's punish, punish, punish. And it's just a bad idea. I am 100% behind putting massive investments into STEM education in the United States, right? I am 100% behind that. I'm 100% behind figuring out the zoning disaster in the United States. And I talk about this with zoning. It's really important to think about. Think about all these really cool new condo facilities that are being built, right? Warehouse, loft condos with massive windows looking out on waterfronts. What I want you to be thinking about, right, is how much of our industrial land is literally being turned into luxury condos. The places where a factory was and would go in the future is now being turned into luxury condos. At the exact same time, right, new land isn't being allocated for factories. So in many places, if people want to build a factory, they would have to go through so much land use and all kinds of environmental rules and regulations. It's a complete and utter pain in the ass. That's the kind of stuff that's going on right now, right? We need to reshore manufacturing. Question, where? I know it's a simple question. But seriously, where are we going to build those factories? Right? There's just a whole bunch of interesting stuff out there. Anyways, so the big question now is, okay, if these companies have to spend $100,000 on H1B visas, what is going to happen? So they're spending $100,000 on H1B visas. At the exact same time, the administration is eviscerating our education system, right? Is not supporting the education system, is not coming up with the whole skills programs or anything else. So how is this going to work out? And the answer is that our big tech companies are just going to spin up offices in other countries. Yeah, this is gonna show you goddamn Indian H1B visas. Why don't you go home and take your job with you? Wait, what? Yeah, that Indian, that curry-smelling Indian, yeah, he touched that job. I don't want a job. That job is gonna smell like curry. Oh, golly. Anyways, welcome to America. Welcome to America in 2025. So Anthropic, again, this is interesting, right? AI, right? We have to have AI supremacy for some reason. Anyways, Anthropic to open first India office as rival OpenAI boosts presence in the country. And I think we're going to start to see, more of this. And this is a big question for my international students out there. Is the United States worth it? Right? If you go back 20 years, 25 years, as I've been an adult, when I was originally an adult, anyways, there is a real argument for coming to the United States. If you wanted X, Y, or Z, you needed to come to the United States. One of the points that I bring up for a lot of my non-American viewers out there, especially that aren't in Western countries, is the whole question of, do you need to come to the United States? Is it literally even worth it, right? So you go to third world countries. So I've been to a lot of third world countries. And one of the interesting things that's happened over the past couple of decades is that rich people or well-off people in third world countries are actually doing pretty damn well. And you're not supposed to think, right? The country may suck, right? The country may be God's asshole. But, if you actually make a decent paycheck on the international market, it's amazing what you can afford in a crap hole. You can actually have a really nice big house, and you can have a car, and you can have HVAC, and you can have private health care, and you can have a good education system for your kids. Right now, you may be like the top 5% of the population. Everybody else is sucking wind, but you can actually do pretty well, right? And I think that's a curious thing, because again, before proliferation of the internet, how it is, and a lot of other systems that go along with the internet, like global transit systems, airplane travel, all that kind of stuff. When you go back 25 years, even if you're wealthy in many countries, it still kind of sucked ass. And it didn't suck ass because everybody else was poor, but your ability to access resources, if you were in one of these poor countries, was incredibly limited, right? You could have $100 million in the bank, but if you don't have access to Amazon, if there's no way to get the product from point A to your house, does it really matter, right? You got a lot of money, but how do you actually put that money to use? One of the curious things that's been occurring over the past couple of decades is the ability of people around the world, right? Essentially, the Amazonification of the world now makes it so if you're doing pretty well in a pretty crappy country, you can actually have a pretty damn good lifestyle, right? And so one of the curious things that you really have to be thinking about now with what the United States is doing, again, to foreigners. And this is what I find particularly bizarre. And again, I tell you my opinions here. I put my opinions and I put my biases on the table. Hate me for what I actually believe, not for what you put on me, right? Again, I believe in dealing with the southern border. We really need to deal with the southern border. That's a problem. International exchange students are not, right? Trump wanted to kick out, there was like 220,000 Chinese international exchange students because they might be a security threat. What? That doesn't make sense, right? International students isn't a threat to us, right? Students that come here or international people that come here that don't like what the Trump administration is doing and they post it onto social media. Yeah. It's called freedom of speech, right? That's fine. That's how our system should work. I don't want those people kicked out. People who come here, like there's this one woman who got kicked out. She was dealing with ICE and got kicked out. Basically, she was like trading like au pair services. Like she says she was coming here on a vacation visa or whatever, and then she got here and then she offered babysitting services to a family that was here. Now, again, to be clear, is that technically against the visa? Is that technically against the visa? Yeah, I guess. Do I give two fucks? No, right? But that's the thing, right? Like our country is now going after foreigners. If you are a foreigner and you don't cross all your T's and dot all your I's, get the fuck out, right? And so one of the questions you really have to ask yourself is if you're an international person coming to the United States, do you want to deal with this mess? Can you tolerate this risk in your personal life for the questionable benefit that you'll get, right? So we did this fireside chat with Do. Do is, I think he's from the Netherlands, actually. I think he's from like Amsterdam or whatever. But anyways, he has a $100 million AI startup company called Contextual AI. They do RAG 2.0. And one of the interesting things he was talking about being in Silicon Valley, being in the San Francisco area, is that just the environment is so much better than anywhere else in the world. Right? If you are going to spin up an AI startup and you want hundreds of millions of dollars of investment and whatever else, right? He says 2025, there is still no better place in the world than Silicon Valley. Well, that's interesting, right? Actually talking with a person and saying, no, look, when you're trying to hire people, when you're trying to scale up, when you're trying to get investment, the whole 9 yards, you can't beat Silicon Valley. He is from Europe. He is here. He is creating an AI company here because you just can't beat it. Well, here's a question for you. Are you doing something where you think you're going to get $100 million in funding? Are you doing something like cutting edge, like trying to figure out the individual components of an AI system, hyper focus on one component of that AI system, and then push that, into the future? Do you need the rock stars and the ninjas of the tech world? I mean, if the answer is yes, then okay, maybe you need to go to Silicon Valley. Maybe you need to go to San Francisco. Maybe you need to deal with our asinine immigration policies. Oh, you're just trying to spin up a web app company? Oh, you just would like to do infrastructure as a service? You just kind of like to do this stuff. It's kind of fun and kind of interesting, but you're also probably not going to change the world. Right? And with that kind of mindset, is it worth coming to the United States and dealing with everything that goes along with it? I think that's going to be an interesting thing for a lot of people to be thinking about, is that whole question of, is the U.S. worth it? And so with American companies, again, one of the interesting things, as we punish the world for our failings, the world is the whipping boy for the United States. It can't whip an American, and that would be unconstitutional. So let's go whip the shit out of a Chinaman for some reason. Anyways, right? One of the interesting things here is a lot of the problems that we have. It has been brought on by our own companies. Our companies have outsourced. Our companies have offshored. Our companies are abusing the H1B visa program. So when you have our companies and our CEOs abusing the shit out of the H1B visa program, when you come up with a $100,000 basically fine for the H1B visa program, what do you think these types of CEOs are going to do? Do you think they're going to go like, oh, I'm so sorry? Or are they just going to shift the location of where they actually employ people, right? If you've got fiber lines, right? If you've got fiber lines, and we now have an ever more connected world, again, the whole question of why don't you just, if you're gonna hire a bunch of Indians, why don't you just fucking leave them in India? Right? I think that's going to be like a bigger and bigger question as we go forward. I think about this with the whole idea with the world is flat. So back when I was a young adult, I think there was a book. It's called The World is Flat. The idea was after Y2K, folks realized that with fiber lines spanning the world, that you could outsource mental work, creative work to anywhere in the world. Right? You can get the best quality people all around the world for the lowest price. Why hire somebody here that's going to cost you $200,000 a year when you can hire somebody in Ukraine or in India or in Sri Lanka or in Kenya, and you can pay them $10,000 a year and they're actually happy, right? The idea is the world is flat. One of the things I've been thinking a lot about lately is the question of was the guy who did the world is flat wrong? Or was he a little bit before his time? Because that also came out during the dot-com bubbles, right around the dot-com bubble, right? During the dot-com bubble, the idea was all retail, all used to be called brick and mortar businesses were gonna fail. Like we were told, brick and mortar is done. Everything is on the internet. And then we had the dot-com bust, because we weren't quite there. We weren't quite there yet. But now if you go 25 years later, yeah, I do buy more things on Amazon than I do buy in brick and mortar stores. I am getting to the point where we are going to start just having our groceries delivered to us because the grocery stores are such a pain in the ass. All right, more and more business has transitioned to the online world. It just took a couple more decades than we were told. And one of the things I do wonder with the whole idea of the world is flat and the idea of truly globalizing the workforce is a lot of companies tried to outsource to India, tried to outsource to a lot of other countries, and there were problems. Right? It's like, oh, this is the new this is the new technology. Everybody's got to jump on board. This is the future, right? Everybody just outsourced a tremendous amount of crap to India, and a lot of it failed. A lot of fail. I was told that the coding profession in the United States would be dead in short order back in like 2001. Right? Why hire an American coder for $100,000+ a year when you can hire an Indian coder for $10,000 a year? That just does not make sense. That's what we were told. And it made sense, right? On paper, like, oh, okay, fair enough, right? And it didn't work out. There's a whole bunch of stuff that went into it, everything from time zones to culture, to all kinds of stuff. And that's one of the reasons we've had, coding jobs in the United States all the way until 2025. But one of the questions asked is that whole world is flat concept, was it incorrect from the get-go, or was it just 2.5 decades before its time? Did it need time to cook, and then did it need the impetus to really take off? Like with Amazon, right? Amazon and so much of these online services, right? They spent 2 decades cooking, right? 2000, everything was supposed to go online. It was too soon. It didn't work out that way. But then it was another 2 decades. It was another 2 decades of improving systems. It was another 2 decades of getting buy-in. It was another 2 decades of figuring out customer service and payment plans and workflows and logistics systems and all that kind of stuff. All the way up until 2 decades later in 2020, we have a global pandemic. All of a sudden, these systems have been built up over 20 years. They are now robust enough to do what we thought they were going to do 20 years ago. We have this global pandemic. Everybody goes online. And then, even when the pandemic's over, we're using online far more than we were before. I think that's an interesting thing to be thinking about, like with this outsourcing, right? Is we were told this thing back in 2000, this is the future. But it wasn't quite there. The systems weren't fully worked through. A whole bunch of stuff wasn't worked through. And so that whole process has been cooking over the past 2.5 decades, right? It's now 2025. As my viewers tell me every once in a while, Eli, it's not 2000 anymore. Stop talking about your MCSE and NT4. Nobody cares, right? It's not 2000 anymore. It's 2025. All these systems have been built up for over 2.5 decades until you get to the point of a global disaster, right? Trump comes on the scene, right? More dangerous than COVID. And all of a sudden starts shutting down all of these systems, starts shutting down all these ways that we've been doing business over the past while. And these companies still have to stay in business. They still have to try to get revenue. They still have to try to get customers. All of a sudden, the way they've been doing things no longer can function. Is that the moment? Is that the tipping point where they go back and like, you know what? We tried this whole outsourcing thing like 15 years ago and it failed. Maybe now it'll do better. So anyways, this is interesting, especially with the AI. Again, the idea that we have to have AI supremacy for whatever reason. Anthropic, from CNBC, Anthropic on Wednesday said it plans to open its first office in India, entering a market where artificial intelligence usage is growing, and its rival OpenAI is already making headway. The Amazon-backed AI firm, valued at $183 billion, said it plans to open an office in Bengaluru in early 2026. It will be the company's second office in Asia after Tokyo. Dario Amodi, CEO of Anthropic, is visiting India this week to meet with public officials and enterprise partners, the company said. Quote, India is compelling because of the scale of its technical talent and the commitment from the Indian government to ensure the benefits of artificial intelligence reach all areas of society, not just concentrated pockets. Anthropic said its focus in India will be deploying AI for social impact in sectors like education and healthcare, as well as supporting key industries through strategic partnerships. Claude is Anthropic's key product and challenger to OpenAI. Anthropic said it would launch, quote, an enhanced performance in Hindi for Claude. That's the other thing to be thinking about. Again, from an international audience, when I think about using these systems, especially AI systems, I just think about the United States. I think about America, right? I think about English, right? When I use the system, I expect it to respond in English, understand English, and when I ask it a question, I want it to answer from an American perspective. Because I'm an American. It is important to understand an Indian probably wants the same thing. right? So Hindi is the official language in India. And so again, it is this interesting question of, localizing systems for these different countries. And then what does that mean? As well as nearly a dozen other languages spoken in India. Anthropic said India currently ranks second in terms of cloud usage behind the United States. The company's expansion into India comes as rival OpenAI has stepped up its push into the country this year. OpenAI launched a low-cost subscription plan for its flagship ChatGPT product and is also reportedly planning to open an office in the country. The India push is part of a broader global expansion plan for Anthropic as it grows its international workforce and looks to onboard more enterprise customers. So yeah. Take those jobs with you. Damn Indians, damn it, get the fuck out of my country. Take your job with you. Yeah, that's not how this shit's supposed to work. So yeah, this is going to be kind of curious to see how this moves forward. Like, we've got this weird thing in the United States. Again, like what our companies are legally mandated to do. Our companies, how corporations work in the United States, our companies are mandated by law to bring back shareholder value. That is what they're mandated by law to do. And so that's that's where I get worried with how Trump is doing things, right? Because if we invest in education, if we invest in figuring out our zoning system, if we invest in infrastructure and other types of things, then there's a value proposition for bringing work production back to the United States. Right? Look, we can, instead of spending $200,000 on a coder, we can get American coders for $75,000 a year. Hey, what if enough people were educated, you can actually drive down the value? I know that's a horrible thing. But anyway, that's how it works, right? What if we can drive down the value of actually being able to hire an American worker? What if we can produce so much new housing that the cost of housing goes down? Right? One of the big problems we have in the United States right now is apparently it's like 50% of the American public is spending over 30% of their gross salary simply on housing. Now think about this, right? If I need a place to live, I need to make enough money to pay for that place to live. If I can rent an apartment for $500 a month, then you might be able to pay me $3,000 a month and I'd be happy. Right? That's $2,500 extra. I get to go have beer. I get to buy a car. I get to do things, whatever. That's only $36,000 a year. Right? On the other hand, right, if it's going to cost me $2,000 a month for an apartment or $3,000 a month for an apartment, it costs me $3,000 a month for an apartment. That's $36,000 a year just for the apartment. Just for the apartment. So then, again, you got to pay a multiple of that to actually be able to hire somebody, right? So if we actually improved our systems, if we actually improved our infrastructure, I think there would be a value for a lot of these companies reshoring a lot of things to the United States. The problem is if it's just going to be punishment, right? You cannot bring in these H1B visas. You're going to be charged X amount of money, right? It's this punishment thing. One of the questions then has to be asked is, again, if you're thinking about this from a board of directors, are they just looking at a way to get around the punishments? Are you forcing the boards of directors to fall in line with what you want them to do? Or are you simply forcing the board of directors to not be punished? Those are two different critters, right? If you raise a kid, if you deal with employees, right? There's that. Right? You can get somebody to follow the rules that you've created and the outcome is a fucking disaster, right? Because you told them if you don't follow the rules, you're going to get punished. So they followed those rules in a direction you just were not really thinking about. And I think that's one of the big things to be thinking with, again, what the current administration is doing. And again, what the United States is going to do going forward. What I've really just gotten frustrated with in the last 15 years of my adult life is, again, just that supremacy, the idea that somehow the United States is superior, ergo everybody should dance to our particular tune. And again, this is going back to the Biden administration, going back to the first Trump administration, going back to the Obama Obama administration, how we try to punish countries by not allowing them to use the SWIFT transaction system, how we try to punish countries since they use the US dollar, theoretically anything the US dollar touches, we should be able to control for some reason, all the way through with the artificial intelligence, export controls, and all that kind of stuff, right? There's this idea that we are superior, ergo we can put these laws into place and then force people to do what we want. And I think what we're starting to see is we can force people to follow the rules. We can force people to follow the rules. But what that looks like at the end of the day might not be what we want. Right? I was listening to, I was driving back from Durham for Silicon Dojo. I was listening to one of these podcasts, Market whatever podcast, and it was talking about this with a North Carolina furniture company, right? So North Carolina used to be the hub of furniture manufacturing in the United States. And one of the curious things is the guy was talking, the owner of this furniture company was talking about it and how Trump policies are just garbage, like they're really bad. And one of the reasons is he said, right, so there's new tariffs going into place to increase the cost of furniture. Imported furniture, the cost is going to go up. One of the things that he was talking about is even if demand for his furniture increased, so even if, okay, people don't want to buy Chinese furniture anymore, they're going to buy more American furniture, actually building furniture is a skilled trade, right? And he was talking about it. Like, in order to upskill employees takes a tremendous amount of time. And in the current chaotic environment, again, the big thing with a lot of these employers and these business owners, right? They're not screaming about abortion rights. Let's be honest here. Let's be honest. When we talk about politics, these business owners don't give a fuck about abortion rights. They also don't give a fuck if you got a beard and you're wearing a mini skirt, right? All this woke shit, they don't care. They really just don't care. What they do care is that they're in a stable environment, that they understand what the business environment is going to look like a day from now, that they have a relatively good idea what it's going to look like a year from now, and they can be pretty comfortable about what it's going to look like 5 or 6 years from now. And one of the things that this guy was talking about is in order to fully upskill an employee, to really be able to build furniture well, it takes about 5 years, right? 5 years, and that's one of the things I've talked about, is onboarding employees can take a long time. So if he was going to scale up his manufacturing, scaling up the manufacturing capacity, upskilling his employees, building out factory and all that kind of stuff would take 5 years. And in the current environment, in Trump's America, he has no confidence on what the hell tomorrow is going to look like. Right? 1 minute there's no tariffs, the next minute there's 50% tariffs, the next minute there's 25% tariffs, the next minute there's 75% tariffs, right? In that kind of world, there's not enough confidence to know what you should do going in the future. And he was also talking about this with the imported furniture. And right, the guy was talking to him and he's like, well, won't this be better for you, right? Because if they can't buy, if the cost of imported furniture goes up, right, there'll be more demand for you. But even just on the demand level, even if they could scale up quickly, and even if they felt comfortable scaling up, one of the things he said is, yeah, but his customers. So the furniture that they produce is relatively high value, right, relatively high cost. And one of the things he was talking about is that's not what keeps his customers open and in business, right? These customers, right, these furniture stores, they have a lot of different products. Many of the products are IKEA type products, and then some of the products are his quality type product. You go into a store, you know what your budget is. College kids go off for the IKEA, retired people go off for his quality product, right? But the thing is, he was talking about, right, is that those imported furniture items is where many of his customers actually make the most money, right? So if they're no longer able to access that imported furniture, they're not going to be able to sell it, and then they're going to go out of business. Weirdly enough, and this is how all this economic stuff works, he is able to stay in business because the imported furniture keeps his customers afloat. If you kill that imported imported furniture, a huge number of customers is going to go out of business, and that's not going to do anything for him either. And that's the kind of thing to think about with how these economic systems work, and why I'm so frustrated and I'm so concerned with what is currently going on, is how how these dominoes are gonna fall. We have a senile old fucking loser sitting in the middle of a fucking pile of dominoes, just going, "Ah!" And yeah, you know, I'm concerned. I'm concerned how that's going to work out at the end of the day. So anyways, what do you think about this? What do you think about Anthropic opening its first office in India? What do you think about those damn AIs? Those damn actual Indians going home and taking their jobs with them? Are you confident? Are you confident we're on a path that's actually going to lead to a better day for Americans? Or yeah, are we just on a path of, I don't know, whatever the hell we are? Put your thoughts down below. If you like these videos, give us a thumbs up. If you hate these videos, give us a thumbs down. Call me amazing, call me a moron. Just be a real Lutnick and do it down there in the comment section. Do remember the thing that I actually care about is something called silicondojo.com. We do in-person classes. Generally, they're going to be on artificial intelligence in Durham, North Carolina. Going to be doing that every couple of weeks. Our next one is coming up. It's going to be on the OpenAI API. If you are actually able to attend, make sure to RSVP. If not, don't RSVP because it's an in-person class. Come on now, silicondojo.com. And with that, see y'all later.